It would seem as though.
How would you like that? It's a Wednesday.
It is.
And it would seem as though we are back for another episode of It Would Seem As Though, starring me.
And co-starring me.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah.
Wow, I feel...
I'm Vesta.
And I'm disrespected, mostly. I'm Annika.
And you have
Mostly
come to the
annoyed.
podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing.
Mostly nothing.
Mostly nothing, but today we're going to talk about all kinds of nothing. We're
I
going to
know.
talk about all the thing, because as you've learned, if you've listened to us at all, tangents are topics.
Yeah,
Hashtag.
and our topic is Pride, because Portland Pride is this week, and this coming Sunday it'll be Portland, the parade and all of that. So we're talking about Pride, but you know, we have 1,000 other things to say.
Sure.
Per usual.
Of course we do, because, well, it's us, and we talk about whatever the fuck we feel like.
Exactly.
You know.
I know, right?
I would like to do a couple little shout-outs, because this has nothing to do with Pride. Well, not queer Pride, anyway.
Be proud,
But
girl.
I saw on the TikTok the other day some white woman being pressed because she was at the Walmart in the party supplies, and they have black unicorns.
Oh my god.
And by black, I mean as an African American, not they're actually the color black. But that would be cool too. But she was all like, ugh, what is this? Well, what it is this black woman has started a company, and it's called Afro Unicorn.
Okay.
Which I love.
Same.
And it is party supplies, but it's also like some apparel. There's shirts and different things with this super cute, lovely brown unicorn on
Love
it.
it.
But but Walmart is carrying them in their party supplies.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, go Walmart for having something cool
I guess
happening.
snaps for you,
Snaps
Walmart.
for you. For you, Walmart. For now, you know, black children can see themselves reflected in the party supply area.
Yep.
I love that.
That's very exciting.
Love that. So, kudos to you.
Right?
But since it is Pride, I also wanted to give a little shout out to a company that is not only black owned but queer owned, which is jibjapbeauty.com, which I've talked about before. Wait, where's my old jib?
It's right here. Is it blue?
It's right here in my little blue.
Oh my god, I found it.
I know. Every time we do this, you're using my blue
I know.
lips.
Well, girl, I'm blue.
It's GYPJAP beauty.com. And it's mostly lip care stuff.
Love it.
But it's, you know, black owned, queer owned. Love that. Small startup company.
It's Pride Month, girl. You should only be shopping small queer businesses.
Well, if you remember last week,
Strictly.
we talked about the map. What was it called? The Everywhere is Queer.
Oh,
Everywhere is Queer map.
I still haven't looked at that.
I have briefly. I've gone on the website and I looked at actually having my salon put on there, but that might draw people to it. And
Yeah. What do you think? What else do you think an advertisement is for people to be like,
no, but I
there it
don't
is.
want more people coming.
There it is.
It's
There's
like,
that
go
salon.
away.
But you know what? Let's not go there.
I don't want new clients.
No.
I'm trying to start, you know, weaning off the working and the clientele and the whatever, and slowing down and getting all the boo work.
I know.
Work sucks.
It does.
Although
doesn't it?
luckily for me, I've been able to do something that I really like doing for the past 33 years.
Lucky.
Because they started doing it minutes after you were born.
I know, right?
I know, yeah.
There are people that I still know that you went to beauty school with who are, you know, our friend Janny. Shout out to Janny.
Yo, Janny.
Right, but she still talks about when I was like a little doodad running around the beauty salon. A little baby.
Just a little chubby baby.
With my blonde curly mullet.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I just want to know what kind of deal with the devil Janny has made to still look like she still looks like she looked when I met her.
Honestly.
I look at her and I go, you haven't aged a freaking day.
Forever young.
And I was in school. She started, I think, in 1990.
Okay.
So still 32 years ago. And
she's cool.
She was not a brand new baby.
No.
She was fresh out of high school, yes. But
yeah.
How has time not marched across your face?
I know.
At all.
She's just like eternal youth. It's insane.
I think
She's
she
so
like
beautiful.
maybe drinks the blood of virgins.
That's why
sacrifices something in the moonlight. I don't know.
Go ahead and go find a virgin first, and then maybe sacrifice.
Fair.
Them. You know what
maybe
I mean?
Maybe it's more the blood of goats or something. Maybe. In the moonlight. I don't know. Dances naked under the stars. I don't know what she
I would
does.
hope so, to be honest.
Well, it's Janny, so it might be.
Yeah, maybe.
I love that girl.
Agreed.
I haven't seen her in a very long time. I think last time I saw her, we ran into her at
the mall.
No, last time I saw her, we ran into her at La Coretta. We were having dinner, and she was sitting behind with her family.
How cute! How very.
I'm like, I know those people. Yeah,
those people. Anyway,
and I realized all the people listening to me are like,
who? No one cares.
Why are you talking about?
Bitch, shut up about
randos.
Listen, maybe one day we'll talk about you. So
perhaps not.
More than likely
Probably
not.
But probably not. So, but one of the things Pride related that I did want to talk about was the gross shit that happened at Coeur d'Alene Pride.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, the police pulled over a
U-Haul?
A U-Haul, yes.
Yeah.
With 33 Nazis
inside.
Yes. I mean, it was like a clown car, but not funny. No funny to be had. Mm-mm. It was, 33 pissed off white boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I just, to sidebar a little, I heard the best explanation as to why white men are so mad.
Okay, tell me.
Because over the years, women have realized that they just don't need men like they thought they needed them before.
Yeah.
So many women are like, no, I'm good.
Right.
I don't need your contract of marriage. Mm-hmm. I don't need you to take care of me. I don't need you to be the boss of me. No. And so fewer women are getting married or wanting to get married or wanting to even be in serious relationships. Yeah. There are a lot of women now are just being more independent and that pisses white men off. And specifically white men.
Sure.
Because, they've run the world, or at least this part of the world,
for how long?
Forever.
Yep.
And think that they're, always, it's like, we don't like change. Change
no.
is bad.
Well, and I think, too, the socially, collectively, we're having a conversation about the patriarchy, about, men being men and getting away with the bullshit they get away with. And there's time for accountability. That's what the majority of the Me Too movement is. Granted, it was about sexual assault, but who are the perpetrators? 9 times out of 10, they were men. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Predominantly white men. And so I do think that there is this cultural change where men are kind of shaking in their heels. You know what I mean? Being like, girl, they caught on. We ain't shit. What do we do now? We don't know nothing. What do we do? What do we do when everyone else turns on us?
I think you're giving them too much credit for being aware that they ain't shit. Because I don't think that'll ever come through. I think what they're doing is
reaction we're seeing,
they're just spinning out of control.
Yes.
Because they're like, they think we're not shit and we're everything.
We're so great.
Rule the world.
Right. Well, and that's the whole thing about incels. You know what incels are? They're involuntary celibate. So there's these men...
Doesn't that just mean you can't get any?
Oh, right. But they act like women, it's because of feminism and women have rights and blah, blah, blah. Well, because you can't, own people and, I don't know, forcing sex onto people is also, I don't know, wrong, Huh. But these men are just mad at women and mad at the world because they don't get laid. Essentially, they think that it's because of feminism and because of the liberals and because of, whatever.
Right, that's what it is. It's not because you're a total douche trash bag.
Exactly. And it's typically some grungy computer troll who's lived under, a rock most of his life who wants to get a Victoria's Secret supermodel, you know what I mean? And then, and then acts well, nice guys, nice guys finish last. Well, you always want to date dicks. No, bitch. Let's be realistic, right? I'm all about love is love and people should love who they are and there is no, league and whatever. But there is, bitch. Do you know what I mean? There is a differentiation. Yeah. Why don't you shoot for somebody that you could get?
What's funny to me is these guys that you specifically are describing right now. The ones who really are not going to be the first pick of anything.
No.
Because you look at them and you're like, have you even seen the sun in 100 years?
Right.
Have you, it's like... But they're these greasy, grimy little trolls who then look at Victoria's Secret models. But they'll be the first ones who'll be like, well, she was hot, but she put on 5 pounds. Now she's gross.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Mirror. Do you have a mirror?
The king of Mountain Dew Valley. What the fuck are you talking about?
And what's funny to me is these are the guys who are often... fat.
Yeah.
Or they're just yuck.
Yeah.
And I'm nothing wrong with being fat. I'm fat.
Yeah, girl.
But I would never be like, oh, you're gross because you're fat.
Exactly. No judgment. These men can do and be and act whatever. But here's the thing. Don't act like the reason you're not getting somebody who is, you know, conventionally or aesthetically pleasing, or, you know, like a Victoria's Secret model or some, you know, hot babe, whatever. You're not getting them not because they're a bitch or, you know what I mean? They always want to date douchebags. It's because what the fuck do you have to offer? Right. You know what I mean?
Right, let's look at that for a minute. All you have is your AK-47, which you're planning on shooting up a school because you can't get, you know, somebody to fuck.
And your Amazon Prime subscription to your 24-pack of Mountain Dew every 4 days, bitch. We know what you got. And it's nothing appealing. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And you're probably living in your mother's basement.
And
let's be fair.
I'm all about intergenerational living, bitch. Do it. But don't. Just like, but you're the worst. You're the ones who, again, with your Cheeto-stained fingers are the ones who are all, well, you're a fat, stupid, ugly whore. Like, whatever. And I'm like... But
did you mean to sound like Cher when you said that?
Usually my angry voice is
I mean, you know, just asking. Yeah. But I love the descriptive of the Cheeto-stained fingers. So they have an orange keyboard.
Am I wrong?
No. There is no flaw in your
You can imagine it. It's upsetting.
But these are the guys I picture who were in that U-Haul on their way to Coeur d'Alene Pride with their riot gear and their gas bombs and their whatnot, because they were going to go cause some trouble. And they went specifically looking for a fight.
Yeah. And baby, this is like what
Do you want to piss off a bunch of
That's what I said. Queens? I said, Pride there hasn't been a physical Pride in 2 years? You're going to piss off all the queers who are going to Pride for the first time? And let's not forget, this is part of my topic later, but Pride wasn't, in the beginning, Pride wasn't a celebration.
No.
Pride was a riot, bitch. Pride was a revolution.
Yeah.
Pride was like, you fight back. Right. Pride wasn't about like standing and dancing half naked.
Don't think some of you bitches still don't have bricks to throw.
I'm sorry, they're queer people. Of course they do. They're marginalized queer people. They'll knock you out. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, going from, you know, Idaho idiots who get caught in a U-Haul, I wish I would just close the U-Haul and locked it.
Wouldn't that have been awesome?
Because where's that ventilation, girl? There might not be.
Just put big hard lock with no, don't know what it is, whoopsies.
Okay, but...
I left it in the cornfield.
Exactly. So remember the January 6th insurrection? Of course. So many of those freaks who were caught were charged with sedition, okay? And here's a complicated relationship, because what is sedition, okay? And people are like, oh, well, it's treason. It's not, and it's nuanced. So it's like sedition is like talking about and employing others to go and overthrow your government. Treason is the actual act of doing. So I don't know how they weren't convicted of treason, but it's because in the United States history, there's like 13 people, 15 people ever who've been convicted of treason.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
And even less than that have been executed. Honestly, there's not many. There's like people, what's his name? Sorry, I'm looking. Oh, John Brown. He was an abolitionist. He... Yes. What year was it? 1859, tried to have a slave insurrection, and he was tried for treason and murdered. People who helped him tried for treason and murdered. But that's it. And then there's like a famous couple, the Rosenbaums? Mm-hmm. The Rosenbergs, I'm sorry. Julius and Ethel, and everyone thinks that they were tried for treason, but they weren't, because they were an American couple that they were allegedly spying for the Soviet Union. But alleged, girl, I don't know. But they were tried they were convicted of espionage, and they were sentenced to death through espionage. So really, treason isn't used very often. So these freaks who tried to overthrow the government were found guilty of sedition, which is just, again, a nuanced thing. But it's still, you go to prison for like 25 years. You know what I mean? Like that's the sentence often, is you go to prison for a very long time. Which, is that any better, sending someone to prison? Like, I don't even know anymore. But
no, I don't think it's enough punishment.
I don't think so either, but I'm going to say at least there's like some sort of accountability. Do you know what I mean? Like, there needs to be more, but like, at least the big question though is,
because I keep seeing the things that come out was like, well, we've now learned all this new stuff and this new stuff and this new stuff. Mm-hmm. And in each batch of new stuff they learn, there is something that specifically goes back to Trump, that puts him right in the middle of the mess. Him inciting the riot, him in the middle of the riots going, well, maybe my followers were right in what they were saying about that they should hang Pence. You know, he's saying, yeah, well, they have the right idea. Oh, do they? And all of this stuff has come out, all of his texts, and still people are like, fake news, or whatever. And it's like, when is that guy? And because that guy, really, Teflon Don. It's like nothing sticks to that piece of shit.
If everything is fake news, at some point, what do you believe? You only believe conspiracies. So what I think is happening...
You believe the QAnon crap.
Right, which is all conspiracy nonsense, right? And so what it feels like to me is because how do you get back from that point? How do people who claim everything is not real or fake or whatever, like the pandemic, racism, whatever... How do you bring them back to reality? How do you steer people, into seeing something when they are so adamant it doesn't exist, right?
That's a good question because I remember during the when he was trying to get reelected, I remember reading this article saying that no matter what you do, no matter how you could show someone the facts, you could show them a video of Trump doing something, they're not going to be like, oh my God, I was wrong. They're going to dig in deeper because it's like now they know that what they did was foolish. Yep. And so they have no way of getting out of it without looking like an asshole.
And that's the thing. They don't want to look stupid.
Right. And it's like, everyone around you knows you're stupid.
Yeah. Right?
And it's just a matter of you going, oh my God, I was so stupid. I need to change my way.
And that's it.
People being too proud. Whereas I have lived my life with the, oh God, yes, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yep. I sure was wrong. You were right. I was wrong. Now, I do love more than anything when people say to me,
You were right,
and I was
wrong.
wrong.
You love that? I love that.
Oh,
my God. I don't think anyone listening to this who knows you knew that about you.
But I am just as likely to say it.
Yeah.
Because if I am wrong, I will be oh my gosh, yes, I sure was wrong.
Yeah.
But these people, I think, don't know how to just be humble or... whatever you want to call it, just to be well, you know what? Yeah.
Well, and that's scary because it's now like a collective mindset. You know what I mean? There's like a huge population of people who have that same mindset where everything is fake news and they only want to argue and it's not listening. It's just waiting to argue, And that's scary. I do put it I think about it in terms of myself. Like, what is something that somebody was like, I need you to believe it because it's true. If someone came to me and was like, Christianity, I need you to believe this thing.
Right.
I can't believe in something I don't believe in. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't force myself to believe in, the Christian God and, Jesus as the Savior and all that. I can't do it because I just don't believe it. So I just think that, like, obviously that's a religious perspective, but I think these people who don't have any basis in fact or knowledge or reality have just spun out of control. You know what I mean? You can't feed your brain strictly conspiracy theory and hate and nonsense and expect it to form into some healthy living. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so the scariest part to me is like everything that's happening in the world, but there's a huge population that support the bullshit that, the laws and regulations that are being put forward. Like, there are people who think that's good news, and the rest of the population will...
Well, and what you're getting mostly from specifically the Republicans is smoke screens.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yes, these horrible things are happening, but let's focus on queer people because they're bad. Yep. Remember, they're still bad. Let's get some regulations on them. And no, don't even think about those pesky little guns over here that are murdering your children. Get back to see that guy over there. Mm-hmm. He's a drag queen, so he's automatically evil. So you need to focus on him and your hate. Let's get that hate channeled here. Mm-hmm. And it's like it feels so much like. Kind of, and I don't mean this to be all dramatic, but it feels an awful lot like Germany, when with the rise of Nazis, it was that whole let's find scapegoats. Well, and I don't mean it feels like
the Holocaust.
The Holocaust. No. I mean it feels like that political climate leading up to it.
Yeah,
where it was like we're in a really shit time. We need.
You need a scapegoat. You have to blame somebody.
We have to blame somebody, and if we can find out somebody to blame, you can all be mad at them.
Yep.
Don't you worry about don't you worry your pretty little head about anything else. But these people over here, remember the queers? They're still bad.
Yep. It's pushing the responsibility of these huge, social issues onto the people.
Yeah.
Opposed to, these institutions or organizations being like, whoa, we've made these laws, and we've created these agendas, and we've... people have been elected into power who've furthered our vision, but let's, you do better. You know what I mean? It's the same, think of pollution. Think of pollution now. There's a whole push for people to do better individually, and yes, we should be more sustainable as people. But like 3/4 of the pollution that goes out into the world is big business.
Is industrial, yeah.
Exactly. And so we're going to act like you not using a plastic straw anymore is going to save the world, when in reality, if all of these corporations just change their policies.
Listen, I'm still a little salty about that. When you told me I was destroying the ocean because I used a plastic straw. And on that note, we're going to take a break. Salty.
Ocean ruiner.
Salty.
It's because you're an ocean ruiner.
We are back, and I'm not an ocean ruiner.
Well,
I mean,
last time the turtles called, they said, that bitch ruined my life.
Little turtle gets up on shore with little soda can rings around his
and that's
middle,
your fault
like a corseted dog.
Yep.
And it's like, Vesta did it.
Uh-huh.
With its last gasp.
Yep.
Dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look what you did. The ecology of
I
the
want
United
you to
States
know,
you've ruined.
I rarely ever buy soda with the little rings on them because they're stupid. They're more expensive. But when I happen to get them that way, like when something's been substituted in my grocery order, the first thing that I do, and the kids too, they're like, "Oh, we got to cut them into little tiny pieces because we don't want anything getting caught up in them." Like, that's exactly right.
Yeah. That's so cute. That has persisted.
Not to ruin the ocean.
I love that's persisted. Girl, listen. I know I talk about this like every week for the past like month, but I can't help it. The fact that just like learning. Here's the thing. When you learn too much, sometimes everything seems futile. Do you know what I mean? And I said this to my partner yesterday. I was like, and I got upset because this class I'm taking, again, is about development and how it's like ruined the planet and how, people are entrenched in poverty and people are dying at mass rates in the earth, whatever. And just like how to reverse it and how to stop it. But it's just like so fucking upsetting. Do you know what I mean? And people don't... It makes me think of when global warming was talked about initially, and everyone said, it was like, oh, in theory. In theory, this is a theory, right? Like, if in the future we'll have to worry about it, but right now we're fine. But that wasn't the case, right? It wasn't a theory. Right. We should have been fucking concerned about it, right? And we weren't. And so now, global warming today isn't a concern. It's not a worry, because it's our goddamn reality. And people still want to act like we don't need to change our ways, but...
One of the things that was really interesting to me, and this was several years ago, there was a heat wave in New York that caused a blackout.
Right, okay.
I mean, this was several years ago.
God.
But it was a blackout that lasted, I want to say it was like a week. And if you can even imagine that, horrendous. No. And people died, of course, because it was so hot and whatever. But in that time that there was a blackout, there was a measurable difference in the ozone layer.
Yes.
A measure in a week.
Yep.
1 week. Yep. And there was a measurable difference in the ozone when there was no power being used in the city of New York.
Right.
And I'm like, if that does not convince you, of course, because you can't see it. But these are the same people, the people who say, well, I can't see it, so I don't believe it's true.
That's so fucking
stupid. Then how do you believe in God? You can't see God.
Exactly. I don't get that. Do you know what's interesting? I was talking about this with my partner, and we remember there was a hole in the ozone layer, and collectively, like internationally, people worked to, they stopped using like chlorofluorocarbons. I learned that in like middle school and thought that was the greatest word ever, so I still know it today. But they stopped using like CFCs in like aerosol sprays to help like close the ozone layer or whatever. And we did it. We closed that huge hole that was gaping in the ozone layer. We closed it, right? But now people still don't understand that, like, that doesn't fix the world, right? And the fact that you think that climate change is not happening is devastating to me. There are places that are already hot that are just going to become inhabitable. But that's where people live. Like, that's their livelihood. Yes. And so, I don't know, it gets to a point for me where I spin down a rabbit hole and I get really upset about it because I'm like, well, what do we do? But we can't make it feel futile, right? We have to... That's the thing, is we have to do something. Vote, obviously, but like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't have the answers, you guys. I'm just upset, okay? Right. So if you could figure it out.
One of the things that I learned, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this, because I only know about this place on Earth because of you, is the Salton Sea. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know, it's in California. It is east of Palm Springs?
No, it's like 50 miles south of Palm Springs.
South of Palm Springs. Mm-hmm. Okay. So at one point... a dam was built, or the dam was actually taken down.
They channeled
water came down, created this beautiful resort area called the Salton Sea, which was the super cool resort area for a while.
In like the 50s, Marilyn Monroe used to go. Actors in the 50s
and there's
60s,
lots of pictures
cool.
of you see people with their boats and their skis and their
It was beautiful, yeah.
And it's lovely. It is now a desolate wasteland.
Yes.
And nothing can live in the water.
Nope.
Because of all of the runoff from the farms, and because they built the dam back up, and all the water that gets into the Salton Sea now is runoff from farms, and so it's full of chemicals.
Yeah.
And so nothing lives in that. Fish, everything else, dead. And anything that gets in there dies.
Yep.
Well, so here's the most terrifying part. Because all that feeds that is runoff, it will eventually dry out. And I watched this scientist talk about that, and he said, what will happen, not what could happen, what will happen is when that's completely dry, that all of that toxic poison shit at the bottom of the lake will also dry out and then become airborne. And he said it can wipe out cities within 100 miles of it.
Okay, I have a couple things to say. First, I have been to the Salton Sea. Not only have I been there, I've stayed in a town that's on the Salton Sea. It is... the apocalypse has happened. It is desolate. The place I stayed was called Bombay Beach. It was just like this little... It reminds me of like a trailer park, but bigger, right? Yeah. It's not super big. It's literally the fucking desert, and there's the ocean, right? Or the ocean. There's a little lake, man-made lake. It's pretty big, though. But back in the day, it used to be booming. But you're walking around this town, and it's like 112 degrees during the day, and there's flyers up from like years ago, decades ago. Like there's a church, and the sign on the church for like come to Easter or whatever is again from like 4 years ago. You don't know if half these houses are abandoned or who lives in them.
Right.
It was really, really weird and really sketchy. But there's a levee that they built, obviously, because it used to be higher. The lake used to be higher. But there's old like trailers, like, you know, back in the day, 1950s, like streamline kind of trailers that are all like worn out and burned through and shit because it's a disgusting place to live. But as you walk up to the water, everything smells, it just smells like death. It smells like garbage everywhere. And you look at the ground and you think, oh, it's like seashells. No, it's all dead fish bones and like seagull bones and shit like that because it's all just died there. It is sketchy and weird and gross. And it's sad because people still live there and people, you know, children live there and families can't get out.
There's not very many people that live there, right?
No, but again, the lake isn't tiny and there's different towns all around it.
Oh, okay.
The issue is, like, it's close to this place called Nyland, and between Bombay Beach and Nyland is Border Patrol, and it's really sketchy. I don't enjoy being near it. It was just, like, an uncomfortable place to be. You know what I mean? Everyone felt very suspicious of everyone who was an outsider.
Sure.
Right? And now
because why would you be going there?
Right, exactly. So, and then the other thing you said about the evaporating water and then the chemicals are evaporated, there is this interesting thing that happens where when the earth gets too warm, then like the carbon or whatever at the bottom goes to the top. It finally reaches the top of water and breaks. And when that gas breaks, it does wipe out anything around it. And it depends on, of course, like how big it is and how many chemicals or whatever. And how toxic it is, but there are places in Africa where it's happened, or up in like mountain ranges, where all these like toxins that have been at the bottom, there's like a little shift in the earth, so they come to the top and wipe out villages near it. Everyone, all animals, everything just dies around it. Of course, not vegetation necessarily, but anything that uses oxygen to breathe will die, and that's horrifying to think of. So there's a huge. I mean, I know. Thank God it's as far away as it is, but Jesus, who knows? Palm Springs may all be dead.
Right.
You know?
Well, and that's one of the things that the scientist talked about. He said, because if it gets to the point, not if, when it gets to the point where it is completely dried out, he said there will be nothing they can do about it. It's not even like they can go in, you know, and like try to dig up all this stuff and do... No, that ship has sailed. They've been talking about taking care of the mess that is the Salton Sea for decades. And everyone's like, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. And like you said, it is the biggest animal graveyard ever because it is all just bones. Because one of the other things he talked about is similar to what you were just saying, is that shit just bubbles up. And when it bubbles up, it kills anything on the surface.
Yep. Yeah, people have died near the the shoreline when gas comes out, you know, again, because if there's so much toxin underneath it, and the Earth just needs a little movement. And once it comes up, if something's close enough, it can kill it. But people have died around it because it is so fucking toxic.
Yeah. But people also go in it because there is this group of people who believe that it has healing properties.
Which is in fucking...
And so they get in this water that smells like sulfur and death. And I'm like,
no, oh God, it makes me want to die.
No.
There was an old man, though, who wouldn't look me in the eye when I was in Bombay Beach. He wouldn't talk to me. He only talked to my boyfriend at the time, which I was like, I'll call your fucking eyes out of your head. But he said how much he hated it and how it wasn't anything anymore except a desolate, disgusting, toxic waste. And he said that they should fill it in with concrete.
Well, he's probably not wrong.
You know, that's probably the only thing that's going to keep those chemicals from going airborne.
I mean, it would be billions and billions of, pounds of concrete, but whatever.
Yeah, but you know what? Get on it,
But isn't
Bob.
that also the place where the guy lives in his van who built the big shrine in...
Oh, yeah. Salvation Mountain. Salvation Mountain is a crazy fucking thing. It's made of, like, plaster and, like, mud and Adobe essentially, right?
Yeah,
this old man, Leonard Knight, I think his name was. He made it, and it says Jesus loves you and God is, whatever. There's crosses, there's like biblical references, but it's technicolored. It's fucking cool. Look up Salvation Mountain. He died, unfortunately. But it's crazy, crazy cool.
Wasn't he still alive when you were there?
Yeah, he was about 150,000 years old, and he was like skeletal. He was a sweet, sweet old man. But it was like his life's work. He just wanted,
it's huge.
Yeah, and granted, again, I'm not like a big Christian, but he wanted to get the message out. And it's beautiful. Like, I thought it was great. There's also another interesting national park there called Slab City, SLAB, because it's nothing but like slabs of concrete that people have made permanent residence on. So like campers and trailers and whatever. And so now it's technically a campground, so they just paid a camping fee. But people have lived there for decades. People have lived in Slab City. It's like unregulated. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing.
Interesting.
It's pretty much being like nomadic.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Well, I know that when I looked at the pictures that you took of different places in Salton Sea around that area, it reminded me an awful lot of looking at the pictures of Chernobyl. Whereas like, just people have walked away from their homes. And now their homes are... Because then people come in and loot and do all the things. But it's like, why do you want to steal from places where it's toxic?
Yeah.
And you're just stealing toxic shit. No thanks.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I realize we've gotten so very far off topic. But again, hashtag...
How are we proud of the earth if it's dying?
Our topics.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. But it is kind of the thing is, everything is dying and we are not doing enough to do anything about it.
Not even a little bit, right?
Right. And I'm not even sure what led us down that particular road.
Who knows?
But who cares?
Who cares? You're welcome. Cares? You know what? I was going to say this. I don't know if we need to take a break. I don't care. I'm going to say this anyway. I think that it's cute, our little podcast, our little passion project, that it's become like very intersectional in our lives, right? So like we listen to it, obviously. Our families listen to it, but... Also, like, our friends listen to it. Heather Rachel listens to it.
Hi, Heather Rachel.
Hi, Heather Rachel. My mother-in-law, hi, Mama D, we love you. She listens to it. And, like, obviously...
All the way up there in Montana?
All the way up there. And obviously our thousands of other listeners, right?
Yeah.
But, like, we're all a part of this conversation now. And, like, even though I know it's dumb and silly at times, I still think that we talk about some real shit. You know what I mean?
And I told you that one of my people the other day was just saying how much she was just astounded by your knowledge of mythology and how it was just like right there. You weren't obviously looking it up because something would come and be like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
And talk about people by name and and here's this story and whatever.
Yeah.
And that was my friend Rose. Hey, Rose.
Hey, Rose.
Thanks
Shout
for
out
listening.
to Rose, too.
But yeah, it was just... people at T's work listen, and
right.
I love that.
And so I just think like my hope is that maybe you'll learn, I don't know, like something. Maybe you'll just spread some.
I'll learn something.
Maybe one of our.
Are you
listeners.
calling me stupid?
Yeah, well, girl.
And
if not, like at least you're laughing. Right?
Yeah, that is true because I have also heard that there's some good laughs to be had.
Yeah, just a few.
I know. I chuckle when I listen to it.
Right.
Even though I was here for the whole thing, I'll listen to it back and go, okay, we're funny. That's pretty funny.
And this little passion project that we started for funsies is actually kind of like special, and it's reached a lot of people, and I think it's fun,
Because we have tens of listeners.
I know. So thank you so much for listening to us while we yell at each other.
and you know, I will say this again at the end, but if you are listening to us, please tell your friends about us.
Yeah.
And share and like and subscribe and do
Sure.
all the things. And
all those things.
All those things, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, what next?
No, one of the other things.
What's on your mind, girl? Tell me.
What isn't on my mind? Oh my god. Blah 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 blah. I'm looking. Well, because our big topic today was pride.
Yeah,
and I kind of wanted to talk about the legend that is the beginning of the whole thing, because there are still a few people around who were there for the very first riot at Stonewall, of course.
Right.
You know, but everyone. It kind of reminds me of Woodstock.
Okay.
You know how people will be like, oh yeah, I was at Woodstock.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yep.
Because Woodstock was attended by whatever that number was. It was a big number.
Yeah, it was huge.
But if you said everybody who actually says they were there was there, it would be like triple. Whatever
yeah, right, exactly.
But the legend that I like the most, and I'm going to go with this because, and I know I am saying it's a legend, which means it may or may not be true.
Yeah.
The day before Woodstock, no, I'm saying Woodstock. No, not Woodstock.
Yeah.
The day before the riot at Stonewall happened was the day that Judy Garland died.
Oh my god, okay.
And
why would you say such an ugly thing?
Well, because many people now have said that was the catalyst. That there was all these sad queens in this bar being, you know, commiserating about the death of their icon, Miss Judy Garland. Who, by the way, loved the queers.
Sure, yeah.
And when the police came in to raid the place, they were all like, oh no, we have fucking had enough. Mm-hmm. Here's the part, though, that I love the most, is when all these sad queens were sitting at the bar crying in their pink martinis or whatever the hell they were drinking. Whatever you drink. I don't know what sad queers drink.
Right, sad queer things.
It was dykes. Mm-hmm. And it was trans women.
Yeah.
Who went out and said, oh, hell no.
All done.
Get the fuck out of our bar.
Yep.
And threw the first bricks.
Agreed.
I mean, there was rocks and bricks and things thrown and cop cars set on fire and all kinds of things. Nobody lost their life.
Nope.
Which is amazing.
Yes.
But it was not the cis white men sitting in the bar crying in their beer.
Right.
It was not them.
No.
It was the women. And it was specifically lesbians and trans women who started the whole thing. And people often will say that, you know, Marsha P. Johnson threw the first brick. Whether it was the first brick or the sixth brick, she was there at Stonewall and she threw a brick at a cop.
Hell fucking yeah.
And so, go Marsha P.
Yeah. And the worst part to me, and this is something we need to identify because it is Pride Month, is that there's this the horrible thing is that trans women of color and lesbian women, a lot of people of color fought for this, right? And then it morphed into like the gay liberation movement, right? Was that gay? Yeah. And so then all these white queers, all these white gay and lesbians left people of color, left trans people behind. Granted, it was more integrated, but they did leave a huge population of people behind. The ones who had been on the front lines fighting for you.
Yes.
And one thing I wanted to say was that, of course, there were more uprisings. Stonewall is the most famous, and that's what we credit as being the birth of Pride, right? But I was learning some things when we were talking about doing this. And so in May of 1959, so about 10 years, because when was Pride? 1969? 68?
69.
69, okay. So 10 years prior, queer individuals who are fed up with being... the poor discrimination, mistreatment that they were faced in Los Angeles. They fought back again at Cooper Donuts in Los Angeles. Yeah. And it was a group, it was led by several trans women, again, who threw coffee, donuts, paper plates at the cops. And they were forced eventually to, return, whatever it's called. Come back. Run away. Retreat. Words.
There we are.
They had a retreat, but they came back. Words are hard. Girl, okay. But they came back with a larger group of queers and fought back. So I thought that was really interesting. It would seem as though there's a lot of trans people fighting for the rights.
Well, there's also the one in San Francisco, which was a cafe, which was frequented by a lot of sex workers
Okay.
who were mostly trans.
Right.
And
which is still
one night, the police came in and were raiding the joint because all these freaks were there.
Sure.
You know, and they're like, well, we can't have that. And the owner of the cafe or coffee shop or whatever it was called, called the police.
Okay.
Because there were too many of the trans women there.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it. And instead of the police coming in and going, get out,
sure.
you all have to leave, you're all going to be arrested, the women were like, nope, we're not. Mm-mm. We are not going to be arrested. You are not going to fuck with us again.
Yeah.
And they all, probably most of them got arrested.
Yeah.
But it also was like, there was so much pushback that I think it was called Compton's.
Okay.
Where the police were finally realizing, oh, this isn't going to work. Mm-mm. We can't just keep pushing this group of people, And that coffee shop is no longer there.
Right.
But there's I believe there's a marker there that shows where it is. But San Francisco.
Girl.
And so when I watched the newer Tales of the City, the last one with Bob the Drag Queen is in it and several other people, Elliot Page, Fortune Feimster. Anyway, that was one of the things they talked about was that particular uprising. So yeah, there was many uprisings.
Yeah.
And then the year after Stonewall, that was kind of a big thing too. But we're gonna have to wait just a second.
I don't want to.
You have to. So the year after Stonewall, the people who had been involved and a bunch of other people who had become involved in the year following, all were like, we're going to do a big march. Mm-hmm. And march, I think they were marching from Stonewall to Christopher Street, and I don't know how far that is.
Okay.
But I do know that it was started out being a little group of queer people. Mostly men, some lesbians, mostly white. But they were going to make this walk from here to there, and just as a political statement. But as they proceeded on the walk, more and more people joined. And so this group that was a few hundred, at the end was several thousand.
Dang!
And when they got to the park at Christopher Street where they were going to have this rally, they were all making speeches and stuff. And this is where the very famous moment where Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera got up to speak and were booed. Because the white people were like, no. We don't want you representing us because you don't look like us. You are, weird trans people.
Yeah.
And we're just like normal gay people. And it's like, when will folks realize it's like, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
We're on the same cruise ship.
Yep.
And, just because they are not on the same, they're not on the Lido deck with you, does not mean that we're not all fighting the same fight.
Right, exactly.
And so I was just watching a thing the other day, an interview with Sylvia Rivera, who has passed since, some time ago. But she was one of the people who fought from the beginning for queer rights.
Yep.
And continued to do so up until her death.
Yeah.
She was often houseless.
Yeah.
And so, but she was still there working with
all
that community.
The time.
She was always working with the queer community, the trans community, the homeless community, all of these people doing activism up until the day she died.
Yeah.
And so she should be really celebrated. And I know a lot more people know who she is or who she was. Same with Marsha.
Agreed.
I mean, Marsha P. Johnson, I think for years nobody knew who she was, like globally. Mm-hmm. I mean, they knew who she was within pockets of the queer community, but she wasn't talked about like she is now. Mm-mm. And I just saw a thing the other day with, it was a picture of women and their different weapons of choice, and the last woman was Marsha and her brick.
Hey.
And it was all, yes,
snaps
ma'am.
for you, girl.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people, they made a movie just a few years ago. I think it was called Stonewall. And it made it out that the savior of the queer community who started the whole thing was a cis white man.
Burn it down.
And I was like, What?
Burn it down.
How could you make this queer film so tone deaf?
Hate it.
You know, it's like,
yeah,
what are you doing?
The world pisses me off a lot. One thing that I wanted to mention, because we talked about this, was that obviously on our podcast we would condone the idea that being queer is normal and natural, and it has happened forever throughout nature, throughout history, throughout human history. And so I did a little bit of looking into different little pockets throughout history of...
Because Google is your friend,
Google.
and it's free.
Hey, Google. But yeah, so I'm going to just, little snippets of some information about queer people throughout history, right? So in ancient Mesopotamia, which is like Iraq, right? Which is like the cradle of civilization.
Yes.
There was a goddess, Inanna, and she was the goddess of like warfare and sexual desire. But she was a badass. She also is often connected to like a Persephone who like goes to the depths of hell for 6 months of the year, right? Okay. But there was a clergy for her, and they were all trans people, which I think is
sweet,
brilliant. And this is ancient Mesopotamia, so this is like thousands of years BC, right? So, girl, they were like, you had to be either a lesbian or a trans person to be part of her temple, which is really interesting. Also, I know a lot about this, and we talk about it often, is the majority of Native American tribes, indigenous tribes in general, I don't want to just say Native American, but I'll focus on that. But indigenous tribes in general had what is now considered like two-spirit.
Yes.
But every tribe had a different word, right? Some tribes had, 5 genders. Some tribes had, multiple, whatever. But two-spirit was just... if someone felt as if they identify with both sexes, multiple genders, non-Western ideals of gender and sexuality, right? But two-spirit people also were medicine people. They were the healers. They were the keepers of knowledge and culture. They were revered.
I was saying they were revered. In their tribes.
And, in general, all of these people I'm talking about were revered. I'm sorry, you don't get to be a clergy member in ancient times without being revered, There was also a duke in ancient China, so like 500 BC, who he had a lover. His lover's name was Mizizia, and he was just a beautiful man. And the duke needed something, and so his lover stole the duke's chariot to bring it to him. And normally that would be, you'd be murdered for taking that without permission or whatever. And, he had to go help his mother. His mother was dying. So his lover took it to go help his mother, and the duke would have killed him, but he was like, that's so commendable. I love that so much. And there is a legend, a story of like the love of the half-eaten peach or the bitten peach, which is to be known as a queer love story, because this man gave he was hungry, but gave most of his peach to his lover, gave it to the emperor, the duke, so he could also eat the peach too, so he would also not die of hunger. Wow. So basically, so it's like to show, oh my god, we loved each other. There was also the Sacred Band of Thebes, which is an ancient Greek warrior band, where it was 150 couples, so 300 men, who would go out and fight together. They fought better when they fought with their lovers. And then, it was not only then, making sure they were crazy on the battlefield and fighting on the battlefield, but also took care of them at camp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, everyone took care of each other. It was very cute. Very that. There was a gay king of Egypt. His name was Pepi II, which I think is precious. It was the Old Kingdom, so it was like 2200 BC. Like, this is thousands of years ago,
So what I hear you saying is the queers
are everywhere, girl. Yeah, right? Like, the queers were everywhere. And one thing I want to make very clear is that people always say the Bible condemns homosexuality. But the Bible condemns idolatrous behavior, not necessarily homosexuality, right?
It condemns pedophilia.
Yes.
Specifically.
Yes.
And it wasn't until the King James Version.
Oh, right.
That it's brought in that whole thing. And here's the funny thing about that.
Mm-hmm.
King James, homosexual.
Right.
Hot. And it's like...
I love that. I love self-loathing queers.
Right. Oh my god, we have so many of them in politics. I'm going to write all this legislation against the queer people because if anyone found out I was queer, oh my god, my life would be over.
Yeah.
It's like... But King James, when he paid to have the Bible translated into English, that was when that whole thing came in. And it was because they left out a couple of words and they misinterpreted some words from Aramaic.
Yes. Because
and King James, he obviously, was like, whatever, it's all right.
Sure.
Because let's face it, he probably didn't read the Bible. He was just doing because, like most leaders of the time, they were at the head of the church.
Yeah.
And it was like he needed something for his, but he was queer.
Yeah.
So when all of you are talking about you got your King James Bible, good for you. You have your queer King Bible.
Yeah, essentially. But it's and one point that needs to be made is that because in ancient times, often there was a normal relationship between mentor and mentee, and it was often older man, younger boy, and there were times in which these relationships were sexual, but the whole point was to teach this young man the ways of the world. So everything, hunting, cooking, fighting, blah, 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 including obviously sex. So that's a huge reference to, like, the Bible didn't want you having sex with children, which I was like, well, that's the best thing the Bible said thus far. But right. Yeah, misinterpreted to just no men having sex with men.
Yeah, because technically when it was actually properly interpreted from Aramaic was that man should not lie with boy.
Yeah.
And that is what, not man with man, it's man with boy.
Yep.
And that really was to fight off what you were just talking about, all the stuff that was happening. Specifically, most celebrated in Greek society, where young boys were actually used as a form of birth control.
Yep.
So when the men still wanted their sex, but they didn't want to get their wife knocked up, or she was already knocked up, and they would then be like, well,
Well, and let's keep this in mind. I talk about this often with my partners, how sex wasn't, sex or procreation, it wasn't like dudes were walking around like, oh, I'm going to go get some women. No, men wanted to have sex, they had sex with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because sex with women was for procreation, often. It wasn't for pleasure. You know what I mean? And men still did, sure, but they also had their buddies that they slept with. This is common.
Yeah.
Like, this was a commonality through an ancient world.
Right, but once that all came into the more European standards of things where that was like, oh, gross, we can't do that. But it's that kind of morality that has stuck around. And like, they brought that to America, and they came to America with the whole, freedom of religion, and it was not freedom of religion at all. It was like, we want to practice the religion we want to practice, and we don't want you to tell us any different. But we do want to tell you that you have to do what we say, or you're wrong.
Right? They were ran out for being crazy people.
Yeah.
Europe didn't want them, so they're get the fuck out. So come here.
I didn't know until not that long ago that this is the same with Mormons. That there was the Mormon Church was established in Europe.
Okay.
And it was burned out. They literally set their churches on fire to get rid of them. And they came to America.
Great.
Yeah.
I wonder if they changed, did they change their story then? Was like Joseph Smith then discovered, you know what I mean? Like, when did that all happen? When did Joseph Smith discover the fucking tablets? And
I don't know, because not a Mormon, and
isn't their angel named Moron?
I do love Mormon stories, though.
Do you?
I do, because they're hilarious. Like, this is so far off topic, but I don't even care. My favorite is the baptismal of the dead.
I hate it.
I love it because it's so outrageously crazy and silly.
Yeah.
That, they have this huge, it is a baptismal font that is sitting on the back of 3 golden oxen. Oh my god. All butt to butt. So in a little 3-way.
Some gay shit.
So that's some gay shit right there. And then, but there's this big marble font sitting on the back of these oxen. And so let's say you're going to the Mormon church and you go, you know what, I'm just super sad that Uncle Dave died before he converted to Mormonism. And I tried, but he just wouldn't listen to me.
Yeah.
And so I want to be baptized for Dave.
I hate it.
And then where he's, in purgatory waiting to see what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so once I get baptized, then he will move to the higher level of purgatory where they will offer him education, and he will have the choice to become a Mormon in the afterlife. And I'm like,
no,
this is the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
And when I talked to people about, well, what happens, because your whole mission as a Mormon is to convert other people, but to have lots of babies so you can create more Mormons.
Yeah.
And like, well, what happens if you die before you ever are. Let's say you're not even old enough you keep aging after you die, and you can get married in the afterlife and have baby. What?
Well, because you get your own planet.
What?
Men get their own planet when they die.
Do?
Yeah, there's some nonsense where when you die, and like when you get to the highest level of hell or whatever it is, I'm not sure, it's Mormonism, you win a planet, but men do. So like their eternal wife and family is with them. I'm not really sure because I'm not a Mormon.
You're not?
I have a few Mormon friends, as you know.
Yeah. I know your friend you called Momo because she was a Mormon.
That was in high school. But then, Sarah, who now lives in Idaho. Hi, Sarah. Love you, Sarah. She was Mormon. I don't know if she technically still is anymore. My point is, I also had another friend when I lived in LA, and she told me, maybe if you die and I'm still alive, do you want me to baptize you? And I said, what? Bitch, what? You want to baptize me after I'm dead? Because I'm going to say no to you this whole time? Like, no thanks. She's also the one who would invite me over to her house when missionaries would come over. Because, like, if her dad was out of town, you'd have to have, like, multiple women or a man in the house. Okay. So it was, like, me and her mom and her sister. And we could all be there together because we could overpower these two teenage missionaries.
Sure.
And I'm like, girl, I don't want to be around these missionaries. First of all, young white men can't look me in the eye half the time. So this is
because they're not tall enough.
Really boring. Yeah, right? I'm like, this is really boring ride.
And you have to be at least this tall to ride this ride. So sorry about it.
And I was like, and why the fuck would you invite me when the missionaries are over to your house?
To make them nervous. Probably to mess with them.
Clearly. I'm like, girl, you think you're going to convert me? This is like a good time for me.
I think you're the one that's going to convert them.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, whatever this cool chick is doing, we want to be doing
We're
that.
We're a part of a new cult. The cult of Annika.
The cult of Annika.
My dream is to be a cult leader.
They'd be the only people that would join that cult.
Thank you. I've had a number of people say that I'd be a good cult leader, and I feel like, thank you. That is the kindest thing anyone has ever said to me, because that's a dream of mine.
I think it's funny that one of our family members, their father-in-law, who, old man, just thought you were the coolest thing and referred to you as a tall drink of water.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I never really kind of understood that phrase. I do get that it means, that you're tall and beautiful and whatever. Cool. And cool, I guess.
I'm hydrated.
You're cool. You are a cool drink of water.
I'm refreshing.
Maybe. But I was like, okay.
I'm real wet. I don't know.
Okay, now
I'm leaving. I'm sorry. Is this open?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Are you gonna eat while we're still recording?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just asking. I mean,
I
guess that's what I get for
it's
leaving
America.
Food on the table.
Okay. I can do what I want.
That is true.
I have a freedom to do whatever I want, and you can't stop me. I'm away from jerky in your face.
A little disturbed that you're shaking a meat stick while you're talking.
Girl, don't act like this is the first time a meat stick has been shaken in your face.
How dare you bring that up?
I know, right? In front of all of our closest friends.
I know. How embarrassing. Listen. So, I was going to tell a tale from the drag closets. But I think no, I still will. Since our topic that we were supposed to talk about, and I know we did some, was Pride.
Yeah.
I would like
We talked about the queers.
We did. We did talk a lot about the queers. During Pride, oh gosh, as early in my going to Pride years,
sure,
I was asked to perform at it was when it was in the park blocks, which are much, much smaller than where it is now. But whatever. And they said, can you come perform? Sure. Well, I get there, and this was the days when you still, had your music in your pocket when you arrived. And I get there, and little boy coordinator was just a vicious little white boy. He's all, I'm sorry, who are you? And I was all, bitch, I'm the entertainment.
I'm your worst nightmare, bitch.
I was asked to do the show, and he's like, by who? And I'm all, by the coordinator of the show. You might want to check with her, dumbass. And so he calls her over, and she's like, of course, this is Patty O'Dora. Blah, blah, blah. And that's before I was a legend.
Oh, my God.
I am now. But still, I had already been Miss Oregon. I had already been Empress.
Oh, sure.
So I'm like, I am somebody.
Yeah, bitch, people know my name, bitch.
Right. So I turn in my music, and the guy at that was taking the music, he goes, "I'm sorry, what's the name of the song?" Because I told him the song, because the song I was doing was "Johnny, Are You Queer?"
Oh my god, yeah.
And he was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "It's Johnny, Are You Queer?" by Josie Cotton. And he was like, "What? Oh, okay." And I'm like, "I'm at Pride."
Yeah, you dumb bitch.
No one's gonna be like, "Oh my god, the drag queen said queer."
Everyone's a dumb bitch right now. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, much to my surprise, when I got up on stage and was performing the song "Johnny, Are You Queer?" I had a whole group of white boys in the front, just all looking at me like, "What is happening?
What the fuck
right
is that?
now? What is this?" So when that song was first released in I want to say 82 or 83.
Okay.
It was banned from the radio.
Oh my god, how funny.
Which I love. Her albums were then banned, Josie Cotton.
Oh my god.
And several people, I think it was in, going back to the Mormons, it was in Salt Lake that they actually burned her records.
Thank you for buying
And
them.
I'm like, yay, Josie. So, I mean, obviously, since then, I've done it multiple times because it's a cool song.
Yeah.
And Josie was a cool chick.
Yeah, I love that.
So, shout out to Josie.
Yeah.
And I will be at Pride this weekend.
Oh my god, so will I.
Except I will be emceeing the parade.
That's weird. Why don't I get to help? I have my own show.
You can bring me drinks. That would be help.
Bitch,
you didn't say, can I be the help?
I swear to God. Yeah, go to Pride, bitch. I'm going to set your little pedestal on fire, huh?
Wow. Oh, I'll just be sitting in my camp chair.
Arson.
I mean, we have been downgraded from our normal sitting on a pedestal
above
above the crowd. We will now be at crowd level.
Ew, that is not fun.
No, I want to be on a dais.
Whoever's doing this, do better, because I hate that.
I want to be on a dais looking down on people, because that's where I feel most comfortable.
That's the only way to do it. You can
But we will be at the corner of Cooch, and yes, it is pronounced Cooch, and Broadway. I'll be there with Maria Peters-Lake. Thank you, Maria, for asking me to be your co-host, because Pride Northwest reached out to Maria, and they said, well, and who do you want to be your co-host? And she goes, Patty Odora, because we did it for like 100 years in front of the Embers.
Yeah.
So we'll be back in all of our glory.
Cooch and Broadway.
Cooch and Broadway. And the parade, I believe, starts at 11, but I'll be there at 10 if you want to come for autographs or photos.
Or to throw a can of paint.
I won't be wearing fur, so don't throw
I don't care. Do it anyway.
However, I will be wearing a dress that is the size of a float.
Oh my god.
So I will fit right into the theme of the event. So, but with that, we have come to the end of our show, and I do want to say, again, download a podcasting app. Anyone. All of them.
And or all of them.
We're on all of them. Everyone, even the ones we've never heard of. And that's probably not accurate, but, we're on the big ones. And subscribe.
Yep,
tell a friend. And give us a good review.
Yeah, email us.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I have looked on all the podcasting apps for the places where you're supposed to do reviews, and I can't find that.
Yeah, but you can give it a thumbs up or a star or whatever. So do that
or whatever.
Also, email us. Give us ideas
Where
for shows.
Email us?
At it would seem as though at gmail.com. Sorry, I forgot. I had a glitch in my matrix. Send me hate mail. Send me ideas for shows. Send me embarrassing stories.
Yeah. Or, one of my favorite pods that I listen to every week is Very That with Delta and Raja.
Love them.
And one of the things they say is, if you have pictures of us from back in the day, send those.
No doubt.
Now, girl, I imagine there are some pictures out there that I've never seen, and probably some that I don't ever want to see, but send them along.
Don't.
We'll look at them.
Just kidding, I guess it's fine.
All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Bye.
It would seem as though